Wow, this is big. Even Fox News is starting to sour on Trump. Some of the reporters are finding it a little ironic that Trump and Elon Musk are laying off thousands of federal workers, yet slashing their retirement accounts at the same time. That seems pretty extreme to me as well, but take a look at what a Fox News reporter had to say.
And we also expect the White House to try to reassure folks who are sitting there looking at their 401ks going down and down and down. This is a White House that came in trying to get federal workers to retire by the hundreds of thousands, but it's tough to make the argument that you should retire if your retirement accounts are getting throttled, which is what is happening right now. So we hope for answers to all of these curiosities any minute.
That contradiction is so loud you can hear it from space. You push people toward the exit door, then you set fire to the parking lot. Hundreds of thousands of federal workers told go ahead and retire, while the very accounts they'd retire on are getting demolished. And this isn't some liberal commentator pointing this out, this is Fox News. When your own squad starts asking uncomfortable questions, the spin machine is officially broken.
You know Trump's policies are becoming extremely unpopular by the day when even Fox News is at odds with what Trump is doing. I will also never get over Fox News talking about Trump while the Dow Jones is shown literally in a state of free fall in the bottom right-hand corner. Donald Trump is a liability to the well-being of this country. He only ran for president to stay out of jail, and now he's doing whatever the hell he wants. He doesn't care about you or your family.
The numbers with the U.S. economy continue to get worse. We are seeing the price of everything, and by everything, I mean literally everything. A report from last week showed us everything today is more expensive than it was a year ago. So inflation keeps rising. Unemployment is rising. Wages are remaining steady, not increasing. All of those things, those three things together actually point to stagflation. But more importantly, as these prices continue to rise, as consumer spending begins to shrink, we're going to see GDP shrink as well. When that happens, for enough consecutive quarters, actually just two of them, that is officially a recession.
Rising inflation, rising unemployment, and wages that won't budge. Three ingredients that when you combine them create something economists have a very specific name for: stagflation. And here's what people need to understand about stagflation. It's not just a recession where things slow down. It's a trap. Everything costs more, you're earning less or nothing at all, and there's no easy policy lever to pull. The last time America dealt with real stagflation, it took years to climb out. We're not approaching the edge of a cliff, we're already in the air looking down.
That leads me to another Q&A here. This is from Island Girl 0719, who says, how far away do you actually think we are from a recession? Well, I can give you the official answer to that, or I can give you what I believe and what I see with my own eyes. First, let me give you the official answer. We could technically be as close as 6 months away from a recession because you have to have 2 quarters of negative GDP growth to officially hit that recession. So it would have to be 6 months away. But in reality, we're in a recession. Like, let's not beat around the bush. We meet all the requirements for a recession minus the shrinking GDP, which we have to rely on that from the Trump administration, filled with a bunch of people who literally admitted to us that we're going to cook the books. We're going to change the way we calculate GDP.
Yeah. Anyway, Trump been running around saying that the economy is doing greater than ever. He's saying that prices are down, food prices are down. This dude really lives in an alternative reality to the rest of us.
Go to any grocery store in any city in America and tell me prices are down. I dare you. I double dare you. This man stands at a podium and says food prices are dropping while every receipt in every household tells the opposite story. The strategy is simple. Say something false enough times and hope people stop trusting their own eyes. That's not leadership, that's psychological warfare against your own citizens, and the scariest part is for a chunk of the population, it actually works.
It is absolutely amazing. See, this is what Trump does. He loves to repeat nonsensical claims in hope that public opinion can be bullied into submission. I am picking up everything he's putting down. Yeah, can't fool me. And It's too obvious, fam. Like, I can see if I saw some really positive things going on, but I don't see nothing but just symbolic stuff like dudes can't play girls' sports. You know, dudes can't go into the restrooms, into the girls' restrooms. We're going to clean up Chicago. We're going to occupy and wreak havoc for about 2 months. And then we're going to leave and go somewhere else and do the same thing. And we're going to keep on doing it till you understand who the boss is around here. And at the end of the day, ain't nothing going to really change because you're putting a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound.
Band-Aids on gunshot wounds? Man, that is poetry, and the intersection analogy is perfect because we all know that intersection in our town. Everybody knows it's dangerous. Accidents happen there constantly. People get hurt over and over and nothing changes. Then somebody dies and suddenly overnight, there's a shiny new traffic light. That's America in a nutshell. Always reacting, never preventing. We had every warning sign, every piece of data, every reason to course correct, and instead we waited for the crash.
Metaphorically speaking, of course. That's what happens, fam. That's what happens in the U.S. We love putting Band-Aids on gunshot wounds. Always reacting instead of being proactive. Just like when you're at that intersection where an accident happens all the time. And, you know, it's typically a fender bender or something like that. Or sometimes it's a really horrible wreck and people get injured, but nobody gets killed. And then the day finally comes when somebody dies. And the very next morning, you wake up and they already got a signal light up there shining brand new when they could have did that before a fatality occurred. But this is a reactionary country. Reacting to everything except these school shootings. These mass murders. Yeah.
Tangerine tyrants single-handedly destroyed the U.S. economy today with the Dow Jones plunging nearly 1,700 points. And while that's happening, he decided, hey, I'm going to go take off and head to a golf tournament in Florida. I guess that's the modern equivalent of let them eat cake.
1,700 points. The Dow drops. 1,700 points, and where's the president while families are watching their savings evaporate at a golf tournament in Florida? The same man who counted every single outing Barack Obama ever took. The same man who said he'd be too busy working to ever play golf. Now he creates a crisis that didn't need to exist and pieces out to hit the links. The disconnect isn't just tone deaf, it's obscene.
You know, the economy is burning, stock market is crashing, global alliances that we've had for nearly a century are completely destroyed, and you're going to go and play golf. I seem to recall you complaining every single time Barack Obama played a round of golf. But now we're in an actual crisis that you created completely unnecessarily, by the way. You're going to go play golf. I'd say that's the only thing you're good at, but actually, you suck at that too. You suck at everything. You can't even run a business, so everyone that thinks he runs businesses well and he's a genius. He's been bankrupt how many times? That's right. Keep drinking the Kool-Aid, because that's exactly where you're headed.
This is what Americans are focused on. 72% of Americans can't afford health insurance. 58% of Americans can't afford car insurance. 67% of Americans live to paycheck. 31% of Americans can't afford their back taxes. 50% of Americans are in massive credit card debt. That's where we are in America. And
72% can't afford health insurance. 58% can't afford car insurance. 67% living paycheck to paycheck. Half the country drowning in credit card debt. Read those numbers again and tell me this is the greatest economy ever. Those aren't talking points. Those are survival statistics. Somewhere between those numbers are real people, skipping meals, choosing between medicine and electricity. That's not an economy, that's a hostage situation.
First off, she's agreeing with us now. Do I fully trust her? Of course not. Second, how do we get a lot of Democrats to start speaking like this? I'm just saying, I don't like the messenger, but...
God bless the Iranian people. I hope to God that they can have a government that is for them and that treats women fairly. But what we have seen happen right now is we have seen over 100 little girls killed at a school from a bomb. And I don't know whose bomb it was, but they're dead today because America and Israel attacked Iran. So that's not really good for Iranian women. And our president is saying that the Iranian people are all of a sudden going to topple their regime. Well, I don't think the Iranian people are going to be toppling their regime when they're getting blown apart by the United States and Israel. And
I can't help think that they're going to do the same thing they did to Gaza, to this country.
An unprovoked attack. And yes, it was unprovoked. And Pete Hegseth said this morning, Megan, he said that we didn't start this war. But I hate to argue with the Secretary of the Department of War. America and Israel definitely started this war, and you can't lie that away to the American people. And so, you know how I feel right now? I am irate. I am furious about this.
She said something here that cuts through all the spin. You cannot claim you didn't start a war when the entire world watched you start it. And the connection she's drawing is important. What they did to Gaza, they'll do anywhere. $40 trillion in debt, and we're funding another conflict, while Americans at home can't afford groceries or insurance. The priorities are so backwards, it would be funny if people weren't literally dying. Irate is the right word. Furious is the right word, because this is indefensible.
We are nearly $40 trillion in debt. How much is this war going to cost?
And listen, here's the takeaway. She has an audience that I would never reach and an audience that you will never reach. People that voted for her, that go shooting with her, that have the same country vibe, you know? We need them to start and connecting the dots. And if this is one thing that we can all get behind, I mean, we got to do it. We already have people behind the Epstein. This is what we need. We already have people behind the ICE thing that are against it. This is what we need. And you need to hear these talking points so you understand what she's telling her constituents as well. You know what I mean?
I truly believe, though, that Trump has the best interests of Americans at heart.
You need to take your head out of Trump's ass and start doing your representation of us.
Shame! Shame! Bye, Felicia!
Even the right wing and the Trumpers on the Federal Reserve believe that Donald Trump's economy has failed us. And in a stinging indictment of the Trump administration, they just voted, all 12 of them, to cut rates to try to salvage the wreckage of the Trump administration. In fact, the MAGA Trumper on there, the political hack Stephen Mirren, whose day job is working in the White House, so he's completely not independent on the Federal Reserve, just got sworn in on Tuesday. He thinks things are so bad, he just voted to cut rates to over 1%. He wants to go to 1.25% between now and the end of the year. He wanted a 0.5 point interest rate cut right now. Everybody else, all 11 other members of the Federal Reserve, including his fellow Republicans and fellow MAGA like Waller and Bowman, they were like, no, we're just going to do 0.25 point. But Mirren, the guy who knows the economy for Donald Trump best and knows the policies best, because his day job is the chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors, he took one look at the Trump economy and hit the panic button and said, let's cut deeper. And let's get it down to 3% interest rates before Christmas.
So the one person on the Federal Reserve who is literally a White House insider, the guy whose day job is advising Trump on economic policy, he looked at everything, the job numbers, the manufacturing data, the consumer confidence, and his response was cut rates, deeper and cut them. Now, he wanted 0.5 point immediately, while everyone else said, let's just do 1/4. The person with the most access to the real numbers is the one panicking the hardest. Even the Wall Street Journal said you can't blame Biden anymore. This is your economy. That tells you everything you need to know.
That's a terrible thing, but it also shows that Donald Trump's continued assault on the Federal Reserve's independence has failed. Lisa Cook, the Federal Reserve governor, is embattled because they framed her. They have framed her with false mortgage fraud allegations. She voted, as did everybody else. Look, everybody can read the numbers. They're all economists. They all have a PhD of some sort. They see the failing job numbers, the failing manufacturing numbers, the failing consumer confidence numbers, the failing housing numbers. They can read. And they know, well, we don't want to raise interest. We don't want to lower interest rates because that'll lead to hyperinflation, but we might have to. Even the Wall Street Journal has come out against Donald Trump's economy, not once, but twice with its editorial board. Last week it said, you can't blame Joe Biden anymore. Sorry, it's now your economy. And now with the Federal Reserve cutting rates, here's what the Wall Street Journal in its editorial board, this is all controlled by Rupert Murdoch. This is what they said just yesterday. You got what you wanted. And it may be the rate cut. It may be that everything works out fine. Inflation drifts downward after a brief price bump from tariffs. The economy booms despite tariffs and a looming labor shortage. The housing market enters a new golden age, and financial markets gallop happily off into the artificial intelligence sunset, said the board. You see where this magical thinking is going. But this is the ominous part. If Mr. Trump is wrong, voters will notice sustained inflation and the lack of gains in real wages. Having staked so much on his political assault on the Fed, Mr. Trump owns the outcome now, for good or for ill. I'm Michael Popak here on the Midas Touch Network on Legal AF. Let me put on my Wall Street hat. Let's talk about what we just observed with the Federal Open Markets Committee and their vote yesterday, and why Donald Trump's assault on the Federal Reserve, of course, failed. Why
we can't. What the hell are you talking about? It wasn't AI. It was actual words, actual footage of a speech given by President Reagan. I think it was 1987. It was real. Okay. And again, but this is just how his brain works. Oh my God, somebody disagrees with me and you reference it. That's cheating. That's rigging. That's commercial rigging. You're rigging the commercial, just like they rigged the election. You're rigging, you're stealing, you're cheating on commercials. What the hell does that even mean, man? By the way, Donald Trump and Republicans, they use AI all the time to make political points. Like, they constantly put out AI videos, totally AI rendered videos of Chuck Schumer, for example, Democratic minority leader in the Senate. Trump created an AI video and dropped a bunch of AI generated shit on Harry Sisson and a bunch of peaceful protesters, his American constituents in New York City. So even if they did use AI, which they didn't, who are you to complain about that? But again, hypocrisy is the lifeblood of the MAGA movement. Let's continue. So it was reported that Trump plans to name the ballroom after himself. Now he says it's fake news. The thing is, that's actually in character for Trump to name the shit after himself, probably put a big golden T somewhere in the middle, right? So this idea that it's fake news, I mean, maybe he'll change his mind, maybe he won't do it, or maybe he's lying and he plans to do just that because, again, it's totally in character. $300 million ballroom, exorbitant, palatial, totally ridiculous, that he says won't be paid by the taxpayer, but we don't know. The second thing is, even if it's being paid by private donors, that in and of itself is suspicious because it's like, okay, well, what are they getting in return for this? Could be corrupt, which is also textbook Trump. My understanding is the Ark he's talking about is like basically the version of the Arc de Triomphe, but in the United States, commemorating our victory in the Second World War. Again, unnecessary, but whatever. I mean, so again, the problem is with Trump, you have to question everything he says. When he says, hey, don't worry about it, taxpayers won't pay, it's like, you're already ordering the Justice Department to pay you $230 million in taxpayer funds for daring to try to hold you legally accountable for the crimes you committed during your first term. So again, we have no reason to take you at face value. Furthermore, you said if you do get that $230 million payout from the Justice Department, which we have no reason to doubt you will get it, given that your lackeys and sycophants are in charge of the ones making that decision or in the position to make that decision. You said that you might put that money towards the ballroom, so it would in fact be taxpayers who would be paying for that. Again, just one lie after another. You can't keep a story straight. Here's another. We know you're corrupt and more corrupt and dirtier than any politician in the world. There's just no question about that. Not sure why you want to flex about that, but again, for daring to quote Ronald Reagan and use Ronald Reagan in ways that Trump doesn't approve, that's cheating, it's rigging, it's fake, it's corrupt. That's why I pulled everything with Canada. They're one of our biggest trade partners. I talk about how important it is to make a trade deal, but they piss me off, so we're done with trading with Canada. You all understand, right? It's like,
MAGA is having a meltdown right now, and Donald Trump is the reason, as he has betrayed his America First policies. Now, if you missed it, Donald Trump sent $20 billion to Argentina to help them through an economic difficulty and to try to limit Chinese influence on the country. And how did Argentina repay us? By immediately selling millions in soybeans to China, stealing U.S. soybean market. And MAGA is losing it because this is not what Donald Trump promised. He promised we would put America first.
$20 billion sent to Argentina, not to struggling American farmers, not to crumbling infrastructure, not to veterans, not to schools, to Argentina. And what did Argentina do with that generosity? turned right around and sold soybeans to China, undercutting the very farmers who were promised they'd be put first? The betrayal isn't subtle, it's a slap in the face with a receipt attached. America first was the slogan. America last is the policy. How many times do you have to get burned before you stop touching the stove?
And now, because of his trade war that he has no plan to win, no idea how to win, he is betraying all of his promises. But think of this. MAGA, farmers, two voting blocks for Donald Trump are both losing in this situation. So the question has to be asked. How many more times will you believe Donald Trump? How many more times will you believe Republicans before you realize they're lying to you, except when they say they don't care about you, they just want your vote?
For about the 1 millionth time since Donald Trump took office, the very farmers who voted overwhelmingly for him in...
What we watch today is a coalition unraveling in real time. The stock market bleeding, the base fracturing, economic advisors quietly panicking, and farmers realizing the promises were empty. When the people who believe the hardest start asking the toughest questions, that's not a crack in the foundation, that's the foundation giving way. So tell me in the comments, what would it take for someone you know to finally change their mind? Like, share, subscribe, Mind Mirror doesn't look away.